It's 4 o'clock on the day the big Thomas Cook airlift begins.
You are gutted. You are gutted. It makes you feel a bit sick.
It's frustrating knowing that they probably know that they're in the difficulty when we bought. We're looking at potentially 1,200, 1,500 quid for the four of us to even try and get home before we can get any money back.
From being about 4 years old, my eldest son has always asked, can we go? His bedroom's been decorated in New York wallpaper. To then have to tell him, actually, we're not going. I just felt sick.
We were just as much unaware as all the customers as well. I saw all the media in the middle of the night, and that's when I just broke down and I just have no idea where to go.
I'll definitely be more cautious in the future booking holidays.
It's pretty devastating for everyone involved.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation with Eddie Mair.
Right now, if you have a Thomas Cook-related question, you should ask it. Claer Barrett is here to help.
Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. The Eddie Mair Show on LBC.
At 2 o'clock this morning, the 178-year history of Thomas Cook came to an end. 21,000 employees in 16 countries are now unemployed. 9,000 of them are here in the UK. And then there are the thousands and thousands of holidaymakers stuck overseas, and thousands of people who've paid to travel with Thomas Cook in future, now wondering what they'll do. The Civil Aviation Authority says all Thomas Cook bookings, including flights and holidays, have now been cancelled. There are currently more than 150,000 Thomas Cook customers abroad, almost twice the number that were repatriated following the failure of Monarch. We know that a company with such a long-standing history ceasing trading will be very distressing for its customers and employees, and our thoughts are with everyone affected by this news. Well, the first of the 155,000 British people stuck overseas have arrived back in the UK. It's a huge operation to get them home. If you're one of the people affected by Thomas Cook's collapse, you can call now and get the expert advice of our personal finance guru, Claer Barrett, personal finance editor of the Financial Times. She edits the weekend money section. She writes the weekly Serious Money column. And best of all, she's here right now. If you have a question about Thomas Cook's collapse, what to do, who to claim from, call Claire 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, tweet at LBC. It's obviously immensely complicated and it's a very worrying time for hundreds of thousands of people. Claire will do her best to help. 0345 6060 973, whether it's you or a loved one. We know there are rules, but some of the rules are different depending on whether you booked flights only. Where do you stand if you've booked a Thomas Cook holiday for the future? Does it matter whether you used a debit card or a credit card? Will you get all your money back? Make the use of Claire's expertise. She has got a big front page article about all of this in today's Financial Times. Ask Claire what you want about Thomas Cook. 0345 6060 973. She's here for the next hour. This was the Secretary of State for Transport, Grant Shapps.
The government's not in the business of running travel operators, and in the end, what we judged, and it's a judgment call, but I think a pretty clear one in this case, is that if we did try to step in, it would only be a few weeks away from having to do exactly this anyway, because in the end, the private investors, the bondholders, all the rest of them couldn't come together with a deal. So it just was not going to work. And that's why we took the decision. I asked the CAA to start organising aircraft to get them in the right places, and we've got 45 aircraft now operational around the world to bring people home on or as close to their departure date from the holidays as possible.
Isabella was a travel consultant for Thomas Cook in Stockport.
We didn't know anything. It was only up until 48 hours ago is where we started to worry. But even still, we had faith in the company as we love working for Thomas Cook, and it's just come as a huge shock. We were just as much unaware as all the customers as well. I saw all the media in the middle of the night, and that's when I just broke down and I just have no idea where to go from here, really. how am I going to put food on my children's table, like pay my mortgage, bills, everything. It's completely turned my life upside down. It's been a great company to work for, and, you know, I've really enjoyed myself, and now it's come to an end. I feel devastated, and I don't know what to do about not getting paid. I'm currently sat in Citizens Advice waiting for some help because I genuinely don't know what to do. I've been employed the last 10 years, so I don't even know where to begin. Obviously, all those employees, and then for everybody that have booked time off the holidays, people that were supposed to be going on holidays, it's a sad time for them as well. So I just hope everybody is feeling okay today, and I bet everybody, you know, is feeling stressed, upset and worried. It is a sad time for everybody.
That's Isabella, who worked with Thomas Cook in Stockport. Jamie from Leicester is due to fly out to Ibiza this week with his partner to get married. Most of their guests are booked on Thomas Cook packages. He told LBC it's thrown the whole thing into doubt.
We've been planning the wedding for a year and a half, and we all booked the holidays and the flights and everything as soon as we sort of started planning the wedding, and we found the venue and everything like that. We've been paying off everything for the wedding over the last 18 months, and now there's a chance if certain people can't get out there, like my partner's parents, and that understandably she wouldn't want to get married without them there because it wouldn't be the same, which would then cause us to lose thousands in what we paid for the wedding, as well as most of our guests losing money, which they will eventually get back. But it's at the same time, you know, they've lost their holiday. They might not see the wedding happen. So yeah, it's pretty devastating for everyone involved.
Thomas Cook's chief executive is Peter Fankhauser.
I want to apologise to my 21,000 colleagues who I know will be heartbroken. You all fought so hard to make Thomas Cook a success.
Claer Barrett here to take your question. 0345 6060 973. We'll get to calls, texts and tweets in just a moment. First, from one of the worst affected parts of the UK, reporting live, LBC's Lizzie Longley at Manchester Airport. Lizzie?
Well, the first repatriation flight into Manchester touched down about 15 minutes ago, Eddie. It's come from New York's JFK Airport, so I imagine soon we'll see some very tired but relieved passengers emerging from arrivals. They should have been flying back with Thomas Cook, but the airline's final ever flight landed at Manchester Airport this morning. It came from Orlando. Kitty was on that flight. She says it was emotional.
The staff on board, there was an atmosphere, very professional, but an atmosphere of sadness. When we left, they were all lined up, crying, almost like a funeral procession, really. It was just very odd, but also quite sad at the same time. And you said when you got on the landway, people were clapping as the plane was pulling in, and we pulled up.
It takes a lot for British people to clap on a plane. We're not American, right? So, but everyone was clapping.
Yeah, so. And we pulled up, and we just parked in the middle of about 6 or 7 of the Thomas Cook airplanes that were just empty. A bit
like a graveyard.
Well, we're still waiting on another repatriation flight from Split in Croatia. That should be arriving in the next 15 minutes. It should have got in at 1:25. That's a few hours inconvenience, quite a stressful end to a holiday, but at least they will soon be home. One of the most tragic sides to this story is, of course, all of the job losses. We've seen the pictures of the travel agents closed, doors shut, lights off, but there are still people putting on their uniform and a smile for Thomas Cook customers. Earlier, I spoke to Jack Humphreys. He's a team leader for the entertainment team at a Thomas Cook Kids Club in Tenerife.
My colleagues, myself, we're still putting the uniform on, we're still working, even though this morning we had no guarantee of what was happening next or how we will personally get home. This is something that we woke up not knowing, all unsure of, but the company has really kept us in the loop. They're doing all they can to make sure we're okay. And I think because when you work for Thomas Cook, it's honestly, I wish I could explain, it's not like any other company, but you are one big family and you do it because you love it.
As you said, Eddie, there'll be plenty more of these repatriation flights to come. 1,000 have been organised to bring passengers home to the UK.
Lizzie Longley reporting for LBC Live from Manchester Airport. It's a terrible day, Claire.
It certainly is, Eddie, and I think that the weight of sympathy that's coming out on social media, not so much for the people who are trapped on holiday, although there is lots of sympathy for them, but for the staff of Thomas Cook, who, even though they're not being paid in some instances, are still in their uniform, still trying to help passengers, who are in airports or in resorts, and your heart absolutely goes out to them. But what I hope I can offer to people today is some clarity about what they are entitled to especially if they've got a holiday booking coming up and they're still in the UK. If you're listening overseas and worrying about how you're getting home, we've got lots of information on that. And also we're going to talk a little bit about what happened at Thomas Cook to make it all go so terribly wrong.
There's a lot to talk about. Thanks, Claire. 0345 6060 973. Let's get straight to Cornell in Beckenham. Hi, Cornell. What's your question for Claire?
Yes, hi, Eddie. First of all, I'd like to say that, my heart goes out to those who lost their jobs to another great institution that's gone to the ground, and those who are, probably in a much more sticky situation than I am, and my situation is pales in insignificance compared to what I've just been listening to. But really, just to sort of cut to the chase, I'm going to Turkey with my family in October. I have managed to get full compensation back because I booked a package. It wasn't through Thomas Cook; it was an online company that was ASL protected. So basically, only the flight aspect of my holiday was covered by Thomas Cook. The accommodation wasn't. It was through the internet company. And my question is, I've just rebooked via another airline company, but it's cost me £500 more than the original booking. And would I be entitled to some kind of compensation through my insurance or something? I'd imagine many other people in the same situation.
I was going to say exactly that, Cornell. Many people are in the same situation as you. So first things first, let's clarify what ATOL means. If you buy a package holiday, so that's when you go to an operator and they sell you the hotel and the flight together, typically a package holiday, by law it has to be protected by ATOL, which is the Air Travel Operator's Licence. So basically, all of the holidays that were package holidays that Thomas Cook sold would have had ATOL protection. Now, where the difficulty lies is the wait that you're going to have to endure to get your money back. Now, the Civil Aviation Authority, which is administering the ATOL scheme, said this morning that whilst people would get a refund, because of the scale of refund requests it's going to have to process for Thomas Cook, it's not even going to be able to open the online website capable of taking those refund requests for another week until next Monday, the 30th of September. And then when it does, assuming that all of the information that you submit is correct, it estimates up to 60 days for all of those requests to be processed. Now, if that's 60 days and not working days, and that takes us up until the end of November. If it's working days, and obviously that takes us into December, and you won't get the money back into your account to book your new holiday until that point. Now, for lots of people, the longer they're having to wait to book the new holiday, obviously the more and more prices are going to go up. So ATOL is only obliged to refund you for the cost of what you have paid out, and it won't cover you for the extra costs in most circumstances of the holiday going up in price or the flight going up in price.
So you get the money back for the Thomas Cook flights,
exactly,
but not the difference. You're still going to have to fork out
unless you have had travel insurance. But the bad news is that nearly half of all travel insurance policies won't provide cover for an airline going out of business, but around half of them will. So the thing to do, if you have got separate travel insurance in addition to your ATOL protection, get the documents out, read the small print, speak to your travel insurer and see if you can be covered that way.
Cornell, does that help you?
Very, very, very helpful, and hopefully to others as well listening.
Good. Thank you very much, Cornell, and enjoy your holiday when it comes, and hopefully enjoy the money when it comes through, long after you get back, it sounds like. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, tweet at LBC. Claer Barrett with us throughout the hour if you have a question related to the collapse of Thomas Cook. Throughout the hour, we're talking about the collapse of Thomas Cook. Claer Barrett is here and will do her best to answer whatever question you have. Here's a text from Valerie. Hi, Claire. I've checked the CAA updated flight list for Wednesday, Antalya to Gatwick, and my flight's not listed. What should I do?
OK, well, for people who are on holiday and are looking to get home, the UK Civil Aviation Authority has stepped in with so-called Operation Matterhorn and promises that it will get everybody home in the next 2 weeks. And as far as possible, it is trying to get people home as close as possible to their planned dates when their holiday would have ended. Now, as Valerie mentioned, it has set up a dedicated website, which is thomascook.caa.gov.uk. thomascook.caa.co.uk. I'll say that again, thomascook.caa.co.uk, where affected customers can find details and information about repatriation flights, as well as advice on accommodation, because if, of course, you've got to stay an extra night, then the ATOL scheme will have to cover the costs of that. But if your flight isn't listed, the CAA say that you can call the 24-hour helpline for Thomas Cook customers, but they're urging people who are seeking refunds not to call it. They want to restrict this to people who are looking for immediate help being repatriated. Now, that number, I'm going to read it out, is 0300 303 2800 if you're calling from the UK and Ireland. If you're calling from overseas, Valerie, then you'd have to put the +44, then 1753 330 330. So hopefully you'll be able to get through. There has been an awful lot of demand today, but keep trying.
All right. And Valerie, we'll read those numbers for you again in just a second. Another text, this from Mark. Can you explain to me why planes were chartered to bring back all the tourists instead of simply continuing to use the Thomas Cook planes that have been grounded? Surely this option would have been far more cost-effective than chartering specialist planes.
Well, that is a very good question, Mark. Thank you for sending it in. Now, in the aftermath of the Monarch airline collapse, nearly exactly 2 years ago from now, the government did indeed ask this question. The answer essentially is because of insolvency laws. If you are an insolvent company, you can't operate an airline, you can't have flights in the air because you can't be insured. Now, that is the reason why Monarch and why Thomas Cook's own airline went pop in the middle of the night, because that was when all of the planes were on the ground. Now, at the time of the Monarch collapse, politicians did say, well, we can't have this happening again. Most of the Monarch customers weren't ATOL protected because they just bought flights, they hadn't bought a package holiday, and it did cost the taxpayer considerable expense to bring everybody home. But the legislation got stuck in the mud. The politicians wanted the airlines to add 50 pence to the price of every single ticket, pass the cost on to the consumer. The airlines were not in favour of that, and it's all down to be discussed in the white paper, which is due out sometime next year. So it was pushed into the long grass. In Germany, where Thomas Cook operates under the Condor airline subsidy, it's a completely different story. The Germans are not going mad about repatriating people because under their state rules, the airline can be granted a stay of execution to keep flying and bring people home, but over here it hasn't. Let's hope they change the rules the next time this happens, if that should happen.
It's a good question, Mark. Thank you for it. So for Valerie and anyone else who's looking at the CAA updated flight list, trying to get home and you don't see your flight, as Claer advises, for you, you're asked to call this number either, if you're in the UK and Ireland, 0300 303 2800, or from overseas, which you are, Valerie, 44 for the UK, and then 1753 330 330. Good luck with that. Dell is in Camden. Hi, Dell. What's your question for Claer?
Yeah, hello, Eddie. Thank you for taking my call. My question for Claer is, I've got 4 return flights booked to Barbados in February 2020, and that was done via a search engine which came up with Thomas Cook as being the cheapest flights at the time. That was booked via credit card, but my concern is we booked the hotel separately by another search engine, again with a credit card, and if we can't get alternate flights to match the dates, because our dates are very rigid. My wife's a head teacher, so there's not a lot of flexibility at all in the holiday period. And I wondered, have we got any sort of recompense if we can't get to the hotel because Thomas Cook flights are now non-existent?
Yes, so a lot of people have also got this problem with the October half term coming up. Now, you're luckier in the sense that it's a little bit further away, so you've got a greater amount of time to be able to sort things out. So because you paid on credit card, Dell, there's a funny piece of legislation, very useful piece of legislation called the Section 75 Act. It's part of the UK's consumer rights law. And if you have spent more than £100 on an item on a credit card, and then for whatever reason you're not able to use that service, in this case a Thomas Cook flight, then the credit card provider should, in most cases, agree to refund you if something cost more than £100. So the best thing I would advise you to do is to get in touch with your credit card provider. They'll probably be expecting calls about Thomas Cook flights because an awful lot of people will be in the same boat as you. So it's great that you've asked this question. See what you can do with the flights. Now, the one word on the flights is that people who've been looking today at rebooking onto alternative flights have found that prices, particularly for popular periods, have been going up.
Some of them have doubled, I've seen reports.
Yes, exactly. And people have been accusing other airlines of profiteering. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but obviously there's been a huge wave of demand. And if there's that much demand coming back into the market, then until more capacity is put on, then yes, of course, prices are going to rise in the short term. But because you've got that extra time and you're not going until February, you would hope that the prices may indeed come down.
Del, good luck with that. Tara is in Stockport. Hi, Tara. What's your question for Claire?
Oh, hiya. Peculiar situation. I've been listening to all your calls and I haven't heard anybody quite in my position. Going out to Portugal on the 1st of October to an uncle's apartment, so I went via Expedia to book my flight and car hire. Flights were with Thomas Cook. Car hire was a separate company. Now, Expedia have provided me with an ATOL certificate, but it refers to them if they go out of business. But it does say then that the Thomas Cook flight's covered. So I'm a bit confused as to whether I'm covered by ATOL or not.
Understood.
Well, thanks for calling, Tara. I'm really glad that you did, because this is the circumstance in which people who have booked flights are covered by the ATOL protection. Doesn't happen normally if you just book a flight because you've booked something else with it. It's included within the package legislation. So the fact that you've got the ATOL certificate is the really crucial thing, because that is what you will need to produce in a week's time when the refund process opens online. You'll also need to show the proof of the payment that you made for that portion of your trip. But the bad news, as I'm sure you're going to guess what I'm going to say, is that you will have to wait possibly until November in order to get the money back. And if you need to rebook that flight to get to Portugal, then obviously
already done.
You've already done that. Well, that's great.
Yeah,
so
I was waiting up at 2 o'clock this morning and I went through several, just to refer to your point you were talking about before, I was going through several airlines. You could see which ones were linked into supply and demand, because by the time I'd got down to get my husband's card to pay for a Jet2 flight, that flight had doubled in cost.
Oh, goodness
but EasyJet hadn't. So one was £1,000 to get the flights, but EasyJet was $580 and still it hadn't increased in cost.
Great. So, well, I hope you paid on a credit card, so you've got protection.
No, don't do credit cards.
Well, actually, Tara, I have to say you're a woman after my own heart. They are very useful when you get the consumer protection, but obviously they are a temptation for us to spend too much.
We've just applied for one now for that very reason.
Great, but well done for getting your flight, and I hope that story has helped others who might be in the same situation. And obviously, don't forget to put in the request for your refund when you come back from your holiday.
Good luck, Tara, but goodness me, that flight going up to £1,000.
It's really frightening, isn't it?
OK, well, whatever your query is, fire away. Claire's here till 5, 0345 6060 973. We'll talk more about the collapse of Thomas Cook. Claer Barrett offering the best advice possible. If you have a question, 0345 6060 973. The collapse of Thomas Cook has got Gary phoning in from Peterborough. Hi, Gary. What's your question for Claire?
Hi, Eddie. Back in March this year, me and my wife decided we were going to go to Thailand for our 10th anniversary. So we went into the Peterborough branch and we booked it all. They took a deposit on a credit card, but then we took a payment plan out, if you like a finance agreement, where they take £220 a month out of my bank account. Well, obviously, it's only halfway through because obviously we don't go until May. So the last payment would have been April next year. Where do I stand with that?
Great. Well, Gary, thank you for calling in. We've had quite a few people who I can see lit up on the screen who want to talk to me about people who've paid deposits or who've set up payment plans and have direct debit. So I think the first thing is, if you've got a direct debit, then it's the time to cancel it, to make sure that no money goes out. Now, when you book your holiday, if it's a package holiday, when you hand over any money in the form of the deposit, if it's an ATOL protected package holiday, which most of them are, they will give you the ATOL certificate, and that is basically your key, Gary, to getting your money back. And as soon as you hand over any monies, including a deposit, you should get your hands on that certificate. So that will entitle you to the refund on the deposit you've paid, but also the instalment payments that you've been making. Now, as we've said to earlier callers, the refund process isn't going to open for a week. You will need to send in a copy of that ATOL certificate and also copies of all of the bank statements showing that you've made those £220 monthly payments on direct debit for the CAA to be able to refund the money to you. And they're saying that it will take at least between 30 and 60 days for most of those refunds to be processed. So I really hope, Gary, that you get your money back before your wedding anniversary, so that you'll be in a position where you can book something else. But the good news is that you will get the money back eventually.
All right, Gary?
Excellent. Lovely job. That's brilliant.
Good. Enjoy the holiday when it comes. Faye is in Gloucestershire. Hi, Faye. What's your question for Claire?
My question is, how do you stand if you've got Thomas Cook vouchers?
Now, this is a really good question because obviously vouchers are one thing that we've seen in the failure of other retailers, Toys R Us most recently, that commonly are not worth anything if a company collapses. But what's the value of your voucher, Faye, and how did you pay for it?
We got given them as a gift, and we've got £250 worth of gift vouchers.
Do you know the person who gave you the gift well enough to phone them up and ask them if they happened to pay for it on their credit card, I wonder? Because if they did, because it's more than £100, you could try, or they could try, your generous friend, to try and make a refund via that Section 75 rule on the credit card that I mentioned earlier. We've also had quite a few calls from people who've booked flights on debit cards rather than credit cards, saying, Claire, can I claim the money back if I've booked things on a debit card? Now, there are slightly different rules with debit cards, when the money just comes straight out of your current account, that are called chargeback. Now, under chargeback, and the debit card holders have been holding money against Thomas Cook deposits because they've seen this coming, I think, to an extent. You've got 120 days to claim from your bank. So if anyone's listening with a debit card, contact your bank. And Faye, I think you've got a phone call to make to your generous friend.
Do you know if they pay by credit card, Faye? Or you're going to ask them?
I don't. It's something I'm going to have to ask. Yeah, of course. Thanks.
But just on this, if there wasn't a payment by credit card, Claire, has Faye's money, is that just gone?
Well, it's likely, I'm told, by people who've been looking into the story at the FT today, that Thomas Cook gift vouchers and gift cards will be worth this. The situation with currency cards is slightly different, and I believe we've got a separate question about those coming later.
Faye, good luck with your call to your, as Claire said, your generous friend. Ian in Bookham says, what's the situation if you have a like card, LYK card, which is preloaded with euro and backed by MasterCard? I went onto the like card website this morning, and on screen was a redirect to the CAA emergency travel site. I have about €250 on it currently. What is a like card?
Well, a like card, spelled LYK, this is a type of currency card which Thomas Cook has been offering to its customers, but it's provided through MasterCard. Now, I am told by Lindsay Cook, the FT's money mentor, who's been working diligently behind the scenes for you, Ian, finding out what the situation with these is that prepaid currency cards, because they're a financial product, they should be ring-fenced in the liquidation of Thomas Cook. So we'll look into this for you more in terms of who you should contact, but frankly MasterCard wouldn't be a bad idea. There are other prepaid currency cards which have been saying that they will refund Thomas Cook customers post office travel money. With around a quarter of holiday makers buy their currency on post office travel money cards, obviously unaffected by the problems that have affected Thomas Cook, but it says if anybody, any Thomas Cook customers have purchased holiday cash and they'll be out of pocket because of the cancellations, then the post office office will give you the original price for what you paid. So as soon as we know more exactly about who you should contact on those light cards, it might be on tomorrow night's show, we will let you know.
Ian, good luck. It's 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, tweet at LBC. And Claire is here till 5 o'clock, and we'll get through as many questions as we can.
Eddie Mair on LBC.
Driving you home with Confused.com, showing you the way to clearer home insurance.
The collapse of Thomas Cook means thousands of staff are out of work. Tens of thousands of people are stuck overseas. And as we've heard throughout the hour so far, there are lots of people planning to go away. They booked with Thomas Cook and now they're wondering what will happen. Laura Dove is one such person from Chorley in Lancashire. Laura, you were planning to go and still are planning to go to New York in January. Tell me about why the trip was so special.
We've always wanted to go. It's something I promised our eldest son that we would always do. So next January I'm 40 and he's 16, and it just seemed like the perfect time to go and finally get to go there and celebrate.
For how long has he wanted to go to New York?
Ever since he was probably about 4 years old. He used to have his whole bedroom decorated in New York wallpaper and bedding. He's always just loved the idea of going. And it's just somewhere I've always promised him that we'd save up to go one day.
These last few days, when we've been talking about Thomas Cook and talking about how precarious it was, what was that like?
Well, I've been in France the last few days working, so I didn't hear anything about it until yesterday morning when one of our group had it on his phone, and he was like, "Oh, look at this, Thomas Cook's, going to go bankrupt." And we was a bit, I couldn't believe it because I'd missed the last few days of talk and obviously thought about the flight, but I just assumed it'd be covered. So I obviously tried not to get too worried about it, but it turns out that might not be the case.
Why not?
Because they're not at all protected because it was just flight, and because I paid via my debit card, not a credit card. So yeah, there's no guarantee if that will be covered or.
How much money
if it is.
How much money are you in the hole for here?
About £1,600.
Oh, Laura. Claire is here. Claer Barrett, our personal finance expert. Is there any hope at all for Laura?
Well, yes, Laura. I mean, I would say please contact your bank. You say you've paid on a debit card that's come straight out of your current account. Now, they do have the chargeback regime, which obviously, if you paid on credit card, you've got kind of nailed down protection under the Section 75 Act. But chargeback, increasingly, when we've seen other tour operators and other businesses go bust, the high street banks will be honouring this. I haven't had any statements from high street banks sent through today, but it's possibly something that we could come back to on tomorrow's show. We'll ask them all if they can give us a comment. But I would phone up your bank on telephone banking and ask them if there's any way that you can make a claim, and hopefully they'll be able to give you some good news, and then you can start to look forward to planning your next trip.
And it's chargeback, that's what you have to mention.
It's called chargeback.
Chargeback. All right, Laura, good luck.
Thank you.
Hope it goes well. Laura Dove, hoping to get to New York. Shall we look at a text here? Why did Thomas Cook not restructure rather than go into administration completely? Would such a decision not have avoided this disastrous situation? Says Shuvik in Eltham.
Well, for starters, great question, and thanks for sending it in. It hasn't gone into administration, it's gone into liquidation, which is, the step further than that. So the people who are handling that liquidation, KPMG and Alex Partners, are now just trying to salvage what they can from the business to get as much money from the creditors as possible. Now, behind the scenes, there has been a huge attempt to restructure Thomas Cook, which has been going on for much of the last 6 months. Now, the biggest shareholder of Thomas Cook, Fosun, the Chinese company, it promised to contribute £450 million to restructuring the company. The biggest problem, as I said at the outset of the hour, was the huge amount of debt that Thomas Cook had taken on. Now, it took on a lot of that debt in order to buy a rival company called My Travel, and that acquisition did not work out well. So because of all of the pressures that it was under, in the end, nobody could step in to save it. The banks didn't want to support it. The shareholders didn't want to put into more money. They even asked the government for between 150 to 250 million, the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said this morning. But the government said that the bailout money would have only have kept the wolf from the door for a few months, a very short period. If it had been agreed, it wouldn't be of effective use of taxpayers' money.
We'll talk more about the business aspect of Thomas Cook with Claire at 5:30 as usual. Jill is in Letchworth. Hi Jill, what's your question for Claire?
Hi. So I booked a holiday through Thomas Cook to Jamaica to leave next July. I've been paying monthly, so I've only paid about £600, but I've got the email that says that I wouldn't get the ATOL certificate until 28 days before I travel.
Okay.
So I don't know how I'm supposed to. How do I get a refund from that?
Well, hang on to that email, would be my first advice to you, Jill. But is it just a flight that you've booked, or is it a package holiday?
No, a whole package holiday, 2 weeks in Jamaica, yeah.
It is a package holiday. Well, according to the ATOL website, which I've been looking on since your call came through, you should be given the certificate at the moment when any money is handed over. That is the rules of ATOL. But if you've got an email referring to the ATOL certificate from Thomas Cook, then I would hang on to that. I mean, £600 obviously a lot of money, but it could be worse if you'd parted with more. I think you're going to have to wait a week until the refund process opens on Monday, and then be ready to fill in everything online, send them all the documentation that you have, and hope that that will be enough for them to refund you. But if there's a paper trail, then fingers crossed.
All right, Jill.
And that's all right on direct debit, is it?
If you've paid with any money, parted with any money, then they should have given you an ATOL certificate, or at the very least an ATOL number.
Yeah.
And people who, regardless of how you've been paying, if your package holiday is protected by the ATOL guarantee, then that is what will entitle you to getting your money back.
Jill, thank you. Hugh is next in Fleet. Hi, Hugh.
Hi, Eddie. Hi, Claire. I've booked a ticket out and a ticket return through an internet operator to Lanzarote. The return ticket was Thomas Cook. The outward bound was Ryanair. I've managed, obviously, to rebook something coming back a couple of days later. Who do I chase for the Thomas Cook bit coming back?
Okay, so if you booked through a website, as we said on the call that we had earlier, some flights, when you book them through websites that deal with package tours, you can get an ATOL protected flight, although it doesn't sound like
this wasn't a package. This was just flight.
It's just the flight. So how you paid for it will determine who you should chase then for the refund. Again,
how did you pay for it, Hugh?
It was. I think it was a Section 75 reclaim I'll be doing, because I think it was a credit card.
But I guess more than £100.
Yeah, and that's £100 for the entire booking, even though obviously the bit that affects the Thomas Cook bit may not be £100.
Yes. So long as something is more than £100, then the rules should kick in. Obviously, you've paid that website. You could also approach that website and ask them if they would refund you, but I think it would be quicker and simpler to try your card company first before you do anything else. But then you are quite lucky, Hugh, if you've managed to get another flight so quickly, and at least your travel plans aren't disrupted.
It had extras. I've had to stay 2 more days and fly back via Madrid, but at least, I managed to do that.
Was it much more expensive, Hugh, out of interest?
No, doing that was actually cheaper, and so it's just the extra 2 days of the hotel, and then the cost of the flight, which is about the same as it would have been for the Thomas Cook refund. So I think I did quite well, but it was like being on eBay. The price was going up every 5 minutes. It was shocking.
Well, yeah, we've heard that already. Prices doubling in just a few minutes. 0345 606 0973. We've only got time, I think, for one more call. This is John in Manchester. Hi, John.
Hi, good evening, chaps. I'm not sure if you answered this before, but I didn't quite catch it. I was in a tent in Dartmouth and it was raining, so I decided I'm going abroad next year. So, yeah, raining for a week. So I booked on my phone Thomas Cook holiday for next year. I paid a £500 deposit with a debit card and then set up a direct debit, which they've taken 2 instalments from.
And it's just the flight that you've purchased? Is it just the flight that you've purchased, or is it a package holiday?
It's a package.
Okay, so when you made your first payment, have you had anything in terms of like the ATOL certificate or an ATOL number that has been sent to you because that is.
I've got the ATOL certificate at the bottom of me confirmation.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So the good news, John, is that you will be able to get your money back via the ATOL protection scheme that the CAA runs. As I said on the call earlier, for anyone who wasn't listening in, it will be another week, next Monday, until the refund website is opened by the CAA, and it will take, they're saying, up to 60 days, possibly longer, for customers to be refunded, and you will need to provide your ATOL certificate, and you will need to provide evidence of how you've made those payments, typically on bank statements or credit card statements, and you will eventually get that money back. I have to say, I was also in Dartmouth earlier this year, and it did rain on one day, but it's an absolutely wonderful place to go, and I'd definitely go back.
John, thank you. Good luck to you with getting the money. Claire, thank you so much. The hour has passed extremely quickly. I know you're going to be back with the business news at 5:30. Since you're doing everything else this hour, would you do me the honour of introducing the Steve Allen soundbite of the night?
Well, here we are with the Steve Allen soundbite of the night.
Do I sound like I've ever been to Butlins?